And then they get to the end of the show, and they have probably one of the most polarizing segments in the history of AEW, where Tony Khan, who swore up and down that he would never get involved in an angle on his pro wrestling TV show. He said, I'm not going to be that guy. I am not going to do that. I'm not going to be Eric Bischoff, Dixie Carter, Vince Russo, Scott D'Amore, Vince McMahon, Triple H, Stephanie. I'm not going to be that person. And they wore him down. And then finally, he interjected himself. He booked himself in an angle where he took them. He got attacked by Jungle Boy, and he took the Meltzer driver from the Young Bucks. I was kind of like, I rolled my eyes basically at the segment, although I got to eat shit real quick. Jack Perry. Dude, I think I'm in on Jack Perry. I think I'm in now.
I told you.
Yeah.
Like, I think we have to stop looking at the New Japan run as a punishment and look at it as a learning excursion. Like, I think sometimes you just got to find something. You just got to find that motivates you. I haven't seen the Skip, but I've heard things about him. I saw him a couple weeks ago at the Windy City Riot, and I said, I told you on the show, I thought he might have figured something out. So I'm glad to hear that. I mean, like, I don't know, wrestling, everybody lies and eventually goes back. And I'm also not a fan. I'm also because you said you would never do this. Well, think like people aren't allowed to change their minds. People aren't allowed to I mean, I don't know, man. I hate holding people to things they said years ago.
Me
I'm
too.
not going to kill somebody.
Right. Yeah, me too. So that wasn't the big deal. I just don't find him to be a very good performer on television. And I just have like nightmares about Dixie Carter and Vince Russo, Bischoff. You know what I mean? Like, those are the three. Vince McMahon actually was a very good television performer. So, but he was just on TV for too long, and once Bischoff was the first, right? Like heel, like authority figure on television, at least that I can remember of. And then after that, it was Vince, and then it just became like a trope to where you always had to have an on-air authority figure on camera, and this is like the first time where he's interjected himself. So I didn't really care for it. I thought it was eye-rolling stuff. However, Tony Khan has totally redeemed himself, because here he is at the NFL draft on the NFL Network wearing a neck brace, selling the Meltzer driver. Tony Khan, kudos to you, sir. You are a legend. Absolutely. Okay, now I like the angle.
I appreciate, even though the NFL had the beautiful part. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is how you create some. Maybe you don't have Chris Legentil. I'm never going to say that right. His name, like his contacts or his media network, but you can get people talking by just doing something like this. And it forces the NFL to talk about your show, even to say this is just a storyline. And people go, whoa, there's a storyline going on. Like, you're creating awareness. This is a great thing. And he's keeping a little bit of kayfabe alive. It's still real to him. Like, I think this is awesome. I cannot say enough good things about this moment right here.
Yeah. Matt, IO Productions, I have to disagree with you. McAfee's crew buried it. They did not. They had fun with it. No. They did not bury it. They had fun with it, but they had a guy on there playing a character and saying he was playing like fake Mel Kiper. And he said, and he's like being a dick the whole night. And he was like saying, he's like, God damn, Tony Khan, don't move your fucking neck. You got to sell it like it's real. Stop moving your fucking neck and smiling. But like everybody else on there was like having fun with it. Rich Eisen talked about it on the NFL Network, saying, and Tony Khan becomes the first ever NFL executive to show up at an NFL draft in a neck brace because he got a pile driver from the night before on wrestling show. Like,
dude, that's great.
Okay, look.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, look, I wasn't into it last night, but again, I thought last night was just a day episode. So you know what I mean? So I just didn't really care for the angle. But they won me over with the follow-up. And that oftentimes the follow-up is more important than the angle itself.
Yes. And that's been where AEW struggles, is that nothing ever, that's been the criticism, and nothing ever means anything. And Tony himself is showing that this means something. So if that's dude, no one's been harder on Tony Khan leadership than you and I. And I think right here, he is showing leadership. This is how you sell an angle. I bet Jim Cornette actually will praise this eventually. I bet.
Yeah, you know what? Because Jim Cornette actually praised Ospreay and Danielson, which I was shocked, honestly.
It was an awesome match.
I was like, it was. And I was like, how? Because other people, like the other grifters, found a way to criticize it. And I'll say, say what you want about Cornette. he's pretty like he's kind of always been that way.
He's Jim Cornette.
Where he's always hated anything modern. So he's just kind of over the top with AEW because they're getting money for it. But I think he will praise it. I really do.
This is old school. Like,
yeah.
No, this is good. Like Tony Khan, again, this is leadership. This is what I said before. Like he's actually showing some initiative here. Like he's getting, this is the draft. Like they timed this perfectly. Like everybody bitched about when they're going to bring back Jack Perry. Dude, they brought it back the day before the draft when they would have the most amount of eyes possible on them. This is like one of the smartest things they've ever done. And here's the problem. I think guys like you and me are too close to the forest to smell the trees. See, I butchered that analogy. Like, we assume that anytime this happens, it's bad because we've seen it go bad so many times. But this wound up being pretty good. And they'll tell you it's bad. Nick Khan's people are going to be like, this is bad. Tell them it's bad. Say it's bad. And that Brad Dork down in Jacksonville will say it. But no, this is good. This is how you get people to talk about your product a little bit and get some advertisement. Dave said next week's show, or this week's Collision is going to get a humongous lead in. You have to take advantage of it. And the show wasn't great, but people are going to remember from last night's show? They're going to remember Tony Khan taking a pile driver. So, I mean, if you're going to go back on your word, make it count. And I got to be honest with them. I think they made it count for as much as they could. Kudos.
Yeah. No, I agree. Last night's ratings tanked. A lot of that was because they didn't have a West Coast feed.
I'm a habitual. It's 8. They're down 8%, and they lost a quarter of the country. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it makes sense because they didn't have the West Coast feed. So that sucked. But then like the audio was terrible. But our Canadian friend, he is the king of all Canada. The king of all Canadians, king of the North, says the TSN Dynamite feed was great. Yeah. So I guess the international feed was great, but it was just like with TSN.
And here's a problem: is this isn't the first time that TBS, TNT, Turner Networks have Turner. Is they still call them Turner Networks? I'm not even sure. Like that whole system has made AEW look bad. With their lack of professionalism, they've screwed up sound issues many times, and we've heard from people who watch the international or watch on the VPNs be like, "Look fine for me," and this is not the first time that their media partner has really kind of screwed them over. So I mean, that's bad, especially when it's a contract year.
Yeah, especially when it's a contract year, and I'm hoping they get a bump in pay for for them kind of screwing them over a couple of times. Like obviously unintentional, right? Like I'm sure TBS is not intentionally sabotaging the show, but again, like it's up to them. Like they have to like hold up their end of the deal. But another great thing that happened last night is the new meme that we're all going to get to use on the internet. Shad Khan face. It looks like an angry dad who came in, and one of my favorite jokes, I think someone said that dad face when he finds out that you spent an hour on 1-900-909-9900, like that literally happened to me. I called that fucking number, and I think I was on there for like 2 hours listening to Mike Tenay give me the scoops because I was too dumb to buy an Observer. I didn't know in like 1997 what the Observer was.
Dude, I never did that. We had a free version. We had the Cody Boynes Wrestling Report out here that was free. So I would call that guy and he would just read Dave's news. Like it lasted for like a year and a half until he got like called out for it. But it was great for me because I didn't have to pay for the Observer. Like, I mean, that's really funny. I remember we were at a birthday party when I was like, I think 10 going on 11. And we were up all night calling those 900 numbers that you see at like 2 a.m. That's something from our youth. And then my buddy had to pay for his phone bill. And we all left him out to dry. None of us chipped in at all.
Oh because my gosh.
That's what you do when you're 11. You pass the book.
Yeah, you call porn hotlines and
that's
you
what
pass
we did.
the buck.
That's what we did.
What do they still have those numbers to call?
Dude,
like
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of like so far removed from all that.
Like we have the internet now. Yeah, I was thinking about this today. I was talking about a friend of mine. I don't understand how OnlyFans functions. It's like people give money. Like, don't you know you could look at all this stuff for free? Like, these things boggle my mind.
Yeah, I don't quite get that whole thing, but I also realize that I'm like old and out of touch.
Ditto.
Yeah.
No argument for me, but I'm just like, you're giving this person money? there's a million, it's not like it's not like it's censored. We don't live in communist China. It's easy to find those things.
Yeah. It's I don't quite understand it, but kudos to like female wrestlers who like figured out a way to make them doing that.
Good for you.
Yeah,
There's a sucker born every minute. Dude, isn't that the most like pro wrestler thing possible though to do that? It goes right in like tradition of like the Rock and Roll Express tearing up hotel bed sheets and selling them as headbands. It's like the same thing, really.
Yeah. It's wild.